So Denali was turned out last night, and as you see, he had fun playing in the mud. He's going to need a pretty extensive grooming today, but for right now, I'm going to get him cleaned up enough so I can work him. I've talked a good bit in the past where I'm never going to do a heavy spa treatment before I work the horse. I'm going to get dirt brushed off so that it doesn't cause a problem. If I was to really clean him up good and get his mind in the stand from the thinking that he's really enjoying the spa day, that is setting him up for failure when we go to work him afterwards. So what I need to do is get him reasonably brushed so that we don't have a problem with dirt under the saddle. He is filthy. And then we're going to work him, and he'll get cleaned up really good afterwards. This is the horse that came in that was real aggressive towards me. Coming into my space, actually stomping at me, trying to make me move. He was to the point of being pretty dangerous. I've done a good bit of work with him. He's turning in to be a very nice horse. He's not dangerous anymore. He's very respectful, or much more respectful of my space. But what needs to happen is I need to make sure that he continues to be that way. I need to make sure he continues to be respectful. So, right, this is very, very nice. He's curious. He's inquisitive. He came to me, but it was not in an aggressive way. He's just checking things out. This is normal young horse behavior. This is what I like to see. Now, I get questions a lot about when do you start a horse? And the thing about it is, if you wait till a horse's bones and joints and everything are completely closed, you're going to be starting a horse around 5 years old. But the problem you run into there is by the time the horse is physically 5 years old, mentally, that horse already has become what he's going to become mentally. You hear me talking all my videos about training being mental. Training is not physical, training is mental. I'm training the mind. So if I wait until his mind is totally mature before I start the physical training, that horse is never going to reach its full potential. Never going to be what he could become. If you imagine a person, and if you're not teaching any work ethic when that person is young, then it's not going to have any work ethic when that person is grown. Same way with the horse. I don't need to be putting a lot of physical pressure on his body, but I need to be teaching him work ethic. It won't be long, he'll be old enough to put a small rider on him. Right now, I need to keep his mind progressing. I need to keep his mind in control. I need to keep control of what the direction his mind is going in. Right now, it's very nice. And if I was to just turn him out right now, it's going to come right back to where it was. He's going to start those bad, aggressive habits that he had. So to keep him progressing, I need to do things that we're going to need later when he's a riding horse. You saw in the previous videos that I did of him, we were driving. We were teaching turn left, turn right, stop, back up, that thing with long lines. Now the next thing I want to do, he's big enough, he's old enough, he can carry a kid saddle. So I'm going to saddle him up today. I'm not going to get it on him tight enough like if I was going to get on and ride. But I want to get to the point where he's getting saddle broke. Where he's broke to the saddle, he's comfortable with it, he's okay with it. It's not the physical saddle broke that I'm after, it's his mind progressing that I'm after. That's the important part. I need to challenge his body in a good way that keeps his mind growing. Keeps his mind progressing. When he came, he was already pretty desensitized. He wasn't worried about a whole bunch. I think they had even said they had had a surcingle on him. I don't know if he's ever had more than a surcingle. This is just a little lightweight kid saddle. I am not concerned about the size of the pad. I'm not concerned about it fitting him perfect. It doesn't have to fit him perfect. It just needs to fit him good enough that it's not causing an issue and it stays on him. Everything that I've been doing up to this point has been preparing him to be a saddle horse, and that continues. Everything I'm still doing is continuing to prepare him to be a saddle horse. I like the mind that he's giving me right now. I like his attention. Saddle is not tight enough to stay on. Just pause right there for just a second. Get a little bit more of a lunge line. Longer line, that way I can give him a little bit of slack. If he does buck, I want him to have enough slack he can get away from me. I don't want him bucking in my space. Doesn't have to be tight enough to get on. It just needs to be tight enough to stay on. That's pretty close right there. So now let's ask him to move out, and we're going to see what he does. All I want him to do is move his feet. Doesn't have to be fast. So you got a little stiff right there. We just want to walk it out. There we go. Just walk it out. I'm not sure what all has been put on him in the past. This is the first time that I've put a saddle on him. See if we change directions. You remember? There we go. Walk this way. Good boy. Really like this horse's attitude. This is the kind of attitude that I look for in a performance prospect. This is the mind that I look for. If the horse doesn't have a mind that's going to challenge me a little bit, it's never going to make it through training to be some sort of performance horse. He has to have that mind that challenges. He has that mind, but he also has a willing mind, like, okay, well, we'll just see what happens when we do it your way. All right, ask him to come to me. Now I want to ground drive him. He has been ground driven a lot, but he has not been ground driven with that saddle on. When you're trying to decide how to progress a horse to the next step, generally what you want to do is you get a step reasonably well, so the horse understands that it doesn't have to be perfect. Challenge the next step, challenge a little more. Most likely that's going to fall apart. Then you come back and you reinforce that previous step that the horse was more comfortable with. When you come back down and reinforce that step, things click in the horse's brain like, oh, okay, I understand what we're working towards. I understand what's going on now. So what I'm doing here, I'm challenging him with that next step of that saddle, but we're going to go back to the basics of driving and reinforce that step. So I started off driving with throwing the lunge line and asking him to turn, follow his nose off of the pressure. It's asking to follow his nose. Again, this part he was real comfortable with, real familiar with. Well, I got the saddle on him that he's not as familiar with. So since I am reinforcing something that he understands, which is following his nose and ground driving, that's going to make him more comfortable with carrying the saddle. Let's do that again the same direction. Good boy. Good boy. Very nice. Very nice. See how when he came back to me, he came back to me here? He didn't come back to me right straight on, like putting pressure on my chest. He came right here. That is a very polite way of him telling me, I want to come to you, but I still respect your space. If he was not respecting my space, he would have come to me this way, threatening my space. Since he came here, over here, he did not threaten my space. He did not threaten to move me out of my space. That was a big deal with him in the beginning. That's what he wanted to do, was move me out of my space. We had to do a lot of work on that. Let's ask him to follow his nose to the left. Good boy. And do that one more time, then I'm going to attach the other line and drive. I want like I said, by reinforcing this step that he's comfortable with, I'm building his confidence in the part that he's not comfortable with, which is the saddle. Very nice. Barely any pressure, and he's following his face around. This is very nice. Good boy. All right, let's go over here and we'll get the other lunge line. Naturally, everything's wet, so it's dirty. It'll be all right. Everything can be washed. Me and him included. See him look back at the saddle, and it worried him a little bit. But he didn't panic, and in his way, he kind of looked at me for advice. What do I do? He settled right back here. Attaching to the halter. I always drive off the halter. I never drive off the bit. I want him to carry the bit. That's the first step in them learning to understand the bit and operate off the bit. But everything is off the halter. I was just having him follow his nose off the halter. We're driving off the halter. This is going to be a little bit more challenging for him because it was a little bit less solid. We'll see what happens. Go. Good boy. I never run the reins through the stirrups when I drive. If he was to panic and run forward, and I had the reins run through the stirrup, the only thing I would be able to do, we need more go, is run behind him. Now that I don't have him through the stirrups, if he was to panic and run forward, basically I just let this right line slide through my hand, and I use the left line, just like I'm lunging, give him a chance for his mind to come back to me, and then we can work back to driving again. Turn right. I want more forward here, and I'm going to insist on forward here in just a minute. But like I said, he's less confident in driving. So I don't want to do too much too quick because of the saddle being the new part. Here in just a minute, I'm going to have to insist on more forward, saddle or not. Turn to the left. Turn to the left. I'm stepping to the right. There we go. As we're turning back and forth, I'm going to be able to get my driving lines under the stirrup, and I'll be able to flip them out so that they flop back against him. I want him used to stuff flopping on his sides. I want him used to feeling things on his sides. Eventually, my legs are going to be there. This is where I get him used to that now. He'll get used to legs on his side now. Turn back to the left. Watch this left stirrup. Just kind of flopped it down a little bit. I need more go. Come on, let's go. There we go. Good boy. This is where he was turned out last night. He had his fun playing in this mud out here. Tried to turn himself from a buckskin to a sorrel. Really like to get a little bit of trot, just so he trots under saddle. I want him to feel the saddle bouncing on him, and I want to be able to show him that it's okay. There we go. Good boy. Very nice. Really nice slow down. Voice with just a little touch with my hands. Really nice slow down. Let's turn around and go back to the left. Let's trot some circles to the left. Good boy. In the trotting, the stirrups bounce around on him a little bit more. He feels the saddle bouncing around on him a little bit more. It's a different feel on his back and his belly. Ask him to stop. Whoa. Whoa. If we can get, let's get a stop. Get a stop and a back. Good boy. Now let's ask him, invite him into my space again. Invite him over here. You want to come over here? Come on. Good boy. Again, he's coming at an angle in front of my space, not directly into my space. This is perfect. This is exactly what I want to see. He's a little bit more than an arm's length away. He's respecting my space. He's respecting what I'm asking him to do. He is doing everything that I would want him to do at this stage. I'm going to get the halter or the lead rope on him. We're going to get him unsaddled. Let's see how he acts to being unsaddled. This is also the first time that he has been not attached to me since I put the saddle on him. So that's a big indication. Is he going to panic because nothing's attached to him? He didn't. He stepped towards me, asking me what I wanted him to do. Asking what's expected of him. Most hard to bridle horses are created that way or made that way because of unbridling incorrectly. Good boy. So even at this stage, I am going to make sure that that bridle is removed correctly. And as long as he never has the removal of that bridle hurt, he should always be an easy to bridle horse. What I want to do is slide it over his ears. I'm going to hold the weight. I'm going to let him pass it past his front teeth. Right now he's actually holding the bit up. Let him pass it past the front teeth. I don't want him to hit the teeth, and gently remove it. The bit hitting the back of the front teeth, removing the bridle, is normally what causes a hard to bridle horse. So if you have a horse that's nice to bridle, like he is, if you always remove it correctly, he should never become hard to bridle. So this is Denali. I'll put a link up here to the first video that I did of him. Until next time, thank you for watching.